News with Kelly Gregg.
Good evening. The stakes have been raised between Canada and the U.S. Today, Ottawa announced its own round of tariffs following a similar measure from Washington over the weekend. 700 American products, from toilet paper to steel and household appliances, will face new tariffs. In all, the federal government says it represents $27 billion worth of goods. The measures were announced today, but will only come into effect on September 8th. California Governor Gavin Newsom spoke to CTV this evening about the damage this trade war has done and his belief that the president will change his mind.
His weakness masquerading as strength. He's flailing, and you're seeing it across the spectrum of issues. And it was full display in terms of how he conducted himself in the last few days. And so, look, I forgive the language. It was colorful language. I'm not, I'm prone to use some colorful language with Donald Trump. But, this is embarrassing. It's embarrassing to the United States. It's embarrassing to the people in the United States. I think it's embarrassing the Republican Party here in the U.S. as well. I can imagine the phone calls the administration is receiving. He's creating a lot of political pressure for a lot of the members of the Republican Party in the northern states. But he's damaging one of the great relationships that we simply can no longer take for granted between the United States and Canada.
Here at home, the federal government is encouraging shoppers to buy Canadian.
This morning, I had the chance to talk with many associations of retailers to really have them on board to make sure that at your grocers, at your local shop, that you understand what are the Canadian products. And I have their support to make sure that's the case. And we will push them to make sure that that's the case.
Now, one of those local shops here in Montreal is bracing for what the latest news will mean for business. Sweeta Rassi reports.
Atelier Bay is proudly local, and its clothes are made close to home.
We cut, we sew.
But its business depends on customers beyond Montreal, including the U.S., and those sales are now taking a hit.
Online sales has been really difficult in the States because of tariffs.
Anne-Marie Laflamme says her business is losing about 10% of its sales revenue because of tariffs. And as a trade war between Canada and the U.S. intensifies, so does the uncertainty.
Our margins are way too thin to support that kind of tariff.
On Tuesday, the federal government announced new support for businesses, including additional loan opportunities. Over the weekend, Quebec Premier Christine Fréchette also unveiled financial assistance, including loans. But for businesses already carrying debt, taking on more may not be the solution.
If you've been through the last rough patch of the last several years with the pandemic, supply chain disruptions, high inflation, and now a trade war, your capacity to take on more debt is quite limited.
According to a survey conducted last year by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, many companies were not even eligible for some economic relief programs. And in total, just 1% of its members used them. Laflamme is hoping this trade war will encourage shoppers to buy local, and that's what some are already doing.
Absolutely, and the stores are making it a little bit easier now.
Like I go out of my way to see if I can choose like local brands or Canadian brands over anything else.
For others, the shift toward buying local could last beyond the trade war.
I think so. The local versus like punitive against the states, not, but local definitely. I think it's important to encourage what's coming from Quebec and from Canada.
But with tariffs eating into already thin margins, Laflamme is keeping a close eye on what comes next. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News.
2 years after they acquired the Fulford residence in downtown Montreal, Chez Doris is getting federal support to reopen the historic building. Ottawa is giving the province $50 million over 2 years to help victims of gender-based violence. Some of that money is going towards Chez Doris, which is renovating the Fulford building so it can be both a day shelter and a temporary home for women fleeing violence.
This particular building will not only have 20 rooms for people who are seeking to rebuild their lives, it will also offer a hub for the other services Chez Doris provides, which include meals and psychosocial services, medical services, financial assistance, and all kinds of other, like financial services and all kinds of other help for them.
The building is scheduled to open in 2028. A fourth police officer has been suspended following allegations of racist behavior in Montreal North. Initially, 2 officers from Station 39 were pulled off the job. Another 3 were put on desk duty and 14 others reassigned to other stations. A third officer was suspended in June, and police say the fourth officer was put on suspension last week. They're suspected of committing repeated acts of discrimination, including cutting off dreadlocks and keeping them as trophies. Federal investigators and Quebec's coroner's office are investigating after a member of the ground crew was struck and killed by a plane at Trudeau Airport. Laurence Brisson-Dubreuil has that story.
Police say the 39-year-old was struck by an aircraft backing up on the tarmac. The union that represents thousands of airport workers has identified Oscar Roballo as the employee who was killed. Roballo was taken to hospital, where he later died from his injuries. The union says Roballo had been working at Trudeau Airport for about a year and a half.
No one ever had any issues with his workmanship or his professionalism. It's just a tragic accident that we lost a very good member.
He says that behind the terminal, airport workers face risks passengers rarely see.
There's a lot of elements. You're handling heavy equipment, big equipment. You're handling the weather, the night, the day.
The union says incidents like this are rare, but it's now working with Roballo's employer, SAMSIC, and the airport authority to establish exactly what happened. Aéroport de Montréal says it has put assistance and support measures for employees and passengers who witnessed this tragic accident. It is also cooperating with authorities investigating the death. CTV News has reached out to SAMSIC for comment, but has not heard back. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada is deploying a team to investigate, and the workplace death is also being investigated by a federal government agency. The aircraft involved was an Airbus A350 operated by French Bee. For the workers who remain on the tarmac, the focus now turns to answering critical questions. How did this happen? And what needs to change to make sure it doesn't happen again?
It's sad to say that it always takes an incident like this in order to put preventative measures, and that's us to secure and to enforce that in order for this never to happen to anyone working at any airport around the world.
Laurence Brisson-Dubreuil, CTV News.
It appears Quebec's anti-corruption squad has wrapped up its investigation into Pablo Rodriguez's leadership campaign. It centers on allegations of questionable fundraising during the Quebec Liberal Party leadership race. According to La Presse and confirmed by Nouveau Info, the investigation found that Rodriguez did nothing illegal. And for the first time since he resigned, Rodriguez spoke out today. He sat down with Nouveau chief anchor Marie-Christine Bergeron.
Est-ce que vous savez qui vous en voulait? Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Est-ce que vous avez fait même, vous, votre propre enquête pour savoir, mon Dieu,
non,
où est-ce que je l'ai échappé?
J'ai pas fait d'enquête. J'ai volontairement, comme témoin, volontairement participé aux enquêtes à la fois du PAC et du directeur général des élections. Mais il y a définitivement des gens qui voulaient me nuire. Je vous dirais que ça a marché par ailleurs.
Rodriguez saying there he didn't do his own investigation into the rumors and voluntarily participated with UPAC, adding there are people who wanted to harm him and it worked. Liberal leader Charles Milliard said he's still waiting for that final report, but what he's seen so far says the party as a whole isn't implicated in any wrongdoing.
Read the article like all of us this morning, so I'm still waiting for the official conclusions of all those inquiries. But if what was mentioned is accurate, I think there's a collective, reflection on what has happened in the past year, and I'm happy to read that neither myself or the Parti libéral du Québec is involved in any way.
Parti québécois leader Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon said he's waiting for UPAC to officially wrap up its investigation, but added it still appears that people making donations were reimbursed.
So let them do their work and let them express what they have found or not found. In any case, what we know for sure is that there was events of political financing during which people contributed a certain amount and got reimbursed right away in cash. And there's no chance that behavior is normal nor legal.
And with the election campaign expected to be called this week, political analyst Raphael Melanson says it's putting the Liberals in a tough spot to start wooing voters.
Well, I believe the reputational damage, no matter the leader, whether it's Milial, whether it's Rodriguez, the damage on the reputation of the party is done, and it's going to be very hard to turn things around at this point. I mean, it's just adding another layer of suspicion regarding the ethics and the integrity of that party on top of what happened during, you know, the Charest years, the Bastarache Commission, the Charbonneau Commission, and the Brownie Gates added another layer of suspicion. So in the minds of Quebecers, if you look just at the poll today, the latest Léger poll, the Liberals are now neck and neck with the CQ at 23% behind, fighting for the second place behind the PQ. And among Francophone voters particularly, they're only at 14%. So it shows to me that the Liberal brand is highly damaged, especially among Francophone voters in this province.
And you can find the full interview with Raphael Melanson on our website. CTV News has confirmed that a prominent lawyer will run for the Liberals. Valérie Assouline is known for her work in the case involving the death of a 7-year-old girl in Granby. She'll be running in the riding of St. Laurent.
Person of action, and I felt there was a lot of moments where I felt like I couldn't go further than what I was doing. So that's why if the people of Saint Laurent give me their trust, I will make sure to make changes. And I will make sure that we speak about children in Quebec.
The official announcement of her candidacy is expected tomorrow. Well, along with election season, it's also back to school, and that can be tough on students' backs. Proper fit and weight distribution for backpacks can help lighten the load as kids return to class. Christine Long reports.
4 friends excited about going back to school, but they're carrying a lot of baggage. Keena Burton's backpack is well over 10 pounds.
It's heavy in the bottom, but the top, I don't think there's any space in it.
Pediatric occupational therapist Sabrina Monsenego says a child's backpack should not be more than 10% of their body weight.
We don't want the child to be holding it with one strap, kind of slouching, and we don't want it to be sitting too low on the back either.
Kind of heavy, but like over here it bothers me here.
Monsenego says properly adjusted padded straps can help distribute the load of books and water bottles.
Backpack has a strap like this that kind of goes around the chest or the waist. The weight distribution will be a lot better that way too.
It can feel really heavy, especially on the first and last day of school, because you have a lot of stuff and you're bringing everything home.
Posture is important to avoid neck, shoulder, or upper back pain.
Backpacks with a lot of compartments so that you can easily place the books so that they're well aligned.
Sometimes when it's like a really hot day and I come back from school and like my school stuff is all in here, like it's kind of like, it's like uncomfortable.
Pain or discomfort from improperly carried backpacks can lead to more challenges in the classroom.
Slouching at your desk, not being able to efficiently copy from the board, leaning their chin on their hand while they're writing.
A little planning can make back to school less of a pain in the neck. Christine Long, CTV News.
And for parents getting ready to pack some lunches, it could be costlier. Food prices have continued to rise and are expected to keep growing with the trade war.
Harvest was pretty generous this year. I mean, in Ontario and Quebec, I mean, there was a lot of moisture. Conditions weren't too dry. They were just perfect, basically. If you were a big fan of strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, corn now, I mean, it's been abundant, and prices. In fact, actually, I saw corn on a cob in Ontario for 20 cents a pop. That's pretty rare. That's really cheap. So you can see that really farmers delivered, and that really helped us along the way.
Well, despite that slowdown, July marked the 18th straight month that grocery prices continued to outpace overall inflation. New data shows hospitalizations for both children and adults riding e-scooters has risen by nearly 40% in Canada. Between April 2025 and March of this year, 837 people were admitted to hospital. That's up from 601 from the same period the year before. The data comes from the Canadian Institute for Health Information. Fractures, head and brain injuries were among the most common reasons riders were sent to hospital. Coming up, from songs to the screen, the legacy of Dolly Parton.
I'm gonna get that gun of mine, and I'm gonna change you from a rooster to a hen with one shot.
More on how she inspired fans here in Quebec. Tributes are pouring in for Dolly Parton, who died today at the age of 80. To talk about her impact, let's bring in Chris Bumbray from Joe Blow YouTube Network. Thank you so much for being here. We have to start, Chris, with the classic.
Well, out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition and yawn and stretch and try to come to life.
Of course, she was known for the country hits, but she really did transcend that genre, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 9 to 5 was the #1 hit, not only in the country charts, but also, you know, in just the regular top 40 pop charts. And it was a smash hit all throughout 1980. And then she had a bunch of other hits that crossed over too, like Islands in the Stream with Kenny Rogers, who she was actually on tour with the last time she came to Montreal in 1986. But like you said, her legacy goes way beyond music. I mean, she had a couple of really big hit movies, one of them, of course, being 9 to 5, but then she was also in The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas with Burt Reynolds. She was in Rhinestone with Sylvester Stallone, which is probably a movie that would be left off the best of in terms of her popularity, but a movie that she always looked back at fondly, and apparently Sly loved her too. And then, of course, the classic Steel Magnolias.
Yeah, I love that movie. I mean, you mentioned it. She did play in Montreal at the Forum in 1986, once at the beginning of her career in about the 70s. What's her impact here in Quebec? She has so many fans.
Pretty big, because I mean the thing is, not American country music doesn't always cross over to Quebec in a big way. You know, we kind of have our own quasi kind of country genre, but in French. But people just love Dolly Parton. I mean, the albums always sold really well here. Apparently the concert sold extremely well, and they actually wanted to bring her back to a Quebec music festival that happened a couple years ago, but they just couldn't make the deal go through, which is really too bad. But you know, she was an icon. I mean, Dolly Parton being gone, to me, it's just another one of the legends that's passed, and a little less magic in this world. And I think that everybody, regardless of whether they like country music or not, and I'm somebody who's not necessarily the biggest fan of country music, loved and respected Dolly Parton.
Well, you brought it up just before. It's not just the songs she's known for, but the movies where she stole the scenes as well.
Absolutely. I mean, and she would be cast against some heavyweights like Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, Burt Reynolds, Sylvester Stallone. But Dolly Parton was Dolly Parton, right?
Yeah, I mean, she, you know, not just in the movies, she was a philanthropist. She had a great sense of humor. How did she come from so little in Tennessee to have such a big footprint?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because so she was one of 12 children born to a poor Tennessee sharecropper, and you know, her book club that she started, which provides free books to children between the ages of 1 and 5, was actually started because her father was illiterate. He never learned how to read, and she did it in honor of him. And he always said that his proudest accomplishment in life wasn't that Dolly Parton became this country superstar, was that she started this amazing philanthropical foundation that really taught a lot of people to read. And not only that, but in her hometown, if you graduated high school, to encourage people to stay in school, every student that graduated high school got $500 from Dolly Parton.
I mean, what an incredible person. Cultural icon as well, not just movies and TV. Thank you so much, Chris, for being here to share your stories and give some insight into the legend that was Dolly Parton.
My pleasure. I'm sorry she's gone. I truly am.
It's a curveball for a Toronto Blue Jays pitcher. He's taking his work from the mound to the museum. Sean Leathon explains.
1-2 from Cease. He got it.
He's second in the major leagues in strikeouts, and now Dylan Cease leads all of baseball in another category. Works of art hanging in a major gallery with his original painting titled Eve of Toronto at the Art Gallery of Ontario.
It's pretty mind-blowing, you know, to come up and see the line and just see, you know, the press and
it just feels very big.
This morning, fans were lined up around the block and through the front doors for a chance to meet the Blue Jays All-Star and see his work up close.
Dylan Cease, I was shocked. He's an incredible artist.
I've been a member for years, and when I heard that they were collaborating with Dylan Cease, I'm like, I have to get the shirt.
There are T-shirts, prints, and tote bags for sale, all the proceeds going to the AGO Charitable Mission, a collaboration that came about after staff spotted Cease inside the gallery on his off day.
Our social media manager guided him into our Renaissance gallery, which is full of guys with moustaches. So we got this perfect photo of Dylan between two 15th century masterpieces all showing off their moustaches. And Dylan was more than happy to talk to us about his artwork. The story continued, the conversations continued, and here we are.
Cease began painting his own originals back in 2022 as he uses art as a way of separating himself from baseball.
I think it helps me balance my life and balance myself in a lot of ways, and ultimately I just really enjoy doing it.
Cease crafted Eve of Toronto during spring training this past February. He says the acrylic on canvas represents the anticipation of coming to his new team after signing with Toronto as a free agent.
I like seeing opinions on it. Like, you don't have to like it. I like people. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's interesting just seeing the mixed receptions.
On this day, the reception was overwhelmingly positive, with Cease taking the time to talk with some young summer campers and meet with fans who connect with his multifaceted personality.
A lot of times there's people think that you can't do sports and something like art or music or something like that. So it's also big to the fans that are not only baseball fans but culture fans and people that love the art gallery.
It feels good to give back, and it feels good to be a part of the community, and I hope this is just one little step towards being part of the culture, really.
And while most people who see Cease's work up close end up walking back to the dugout, here they get to connect with a sports hero in a unique way. Sean Leathong, CTV News.
Still to come, the Canadarm in action on the International Space Station.
Weather brought to you by Gratianscap. Second pair is a gift event including designer frames. A second pair free for a limited time.
Well, after a few showers in the Montreal area today, I am happy to report that Wednesday is looking lovely. Let's put our futurecast into motion and see what we have in store for tomorrow. So we see a few clouds at this time, but we will expect some clearing into the early morning hours, starting Wednesday off with a mix of sun and clouds, and that is what we are holding on to throughout the day. A very straightforward forecast. We continue to push that forward. Overnight, we could see a few clouds, and that is ahead of a system that is expected to bring Montreal some rain with the risk of some thunderstorms starting fairly early on Thursday. It looks like right now we could see it around 9 a.m., so it may impact your morning commute. Something to keep in mind as we head closer to Thursday. Overnight, we are seeing clearing, and 15 is at a low, so very comfortable sleeping conditions. We do start the day at 16 degrees, calling for that mix of sun and clouds, and we will see a high of 26 tomorrow with a very little amount of humidity, feeling like 30 degrees. Now, Thursday, as I mentioned, we will see a risk of thunderstorms. We're expecting around 7 millimeters of rain, and we could be dealing with temperatures feeling like 33 with the actual high being 26. Come Friday, we do see a little bit of a cooler temperature, 22 degrees, but it will feel like 26 with a mix of sun and clouds. Saturday is perfect. Sunny skies, a high of 23. On Sunday at this time, for the majority of the day, we'll see a mix of sun and clouds with a high of 25, but in the evening hours, we could expect around 3 millimeters of rain. And at this time, it looks like Monday and Tuesday, we are dealing with a little bit of rainfall, 10 millimeters on Monday with a high of 24, feeling like 30. And come Tuesday, we could see a high of 23, also feeling like 30, and an additional 8 millimeters of rain. So yes, we do have a few nice days in there, but there is the return of that precipitation.
The Canadarm got a workout today about 400 kilometers above Earth.
National Space Station Flight Control Room here in Houston, Texas. There on your screen, you can currently see live view outside of the International Space Station as NASA astronaut Neil Menon is currently attached to the space station's robotic arm. That robotic arm being maneuvered by the crew still inside the International Space Station.
Two astronauts were out there for about 6.5 hours. They were installing a replacement antenna which helps carry high-speed data between the orbiting outpost and mission control. The same two crew members were also outside last week to remove the old antenna and secure it to a station's truss. Well, that wraps it up for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great evening and take care of each other.